Resident Evil 2.
Hello everyone, I am making a video about questions that were answered through the Discord from the community and of course the developers. So the first one was IVs. Slow. Do not modify evade rolls for the size of an IV's base. So people were wondering, what does that mean? Does that mean instead of rolling, when I rolled the dice, does that mean I no longer have to roll these or better than just this? Or do I still, how does that work? So yes, the answer is you must just roll this instead now. You don't have to roll this or better to evade an IV. Okay. Just this. And the second question was if anyone remembers the old beta rules when you opened the door and you automatically moved, does that still apply? And no, that does not apply anymore. So when you open a door, that counts as an action and you must spend another action to move through it. So that was the second question that people were curious about. Do I move through the tile? So now, third question. Can enemies enter through locked doors when a attention deck card such as No Escape is played? And yes, if zombies are in this room and I am here and I draw a No Escape card, zombies will automatically move through this into this room. This door is not open, it stays locked. So yes, they still go through. Fourth question, does attacking with a knife activate enemy reactions? And yes, attacking with any weapon in general will activate reactions. Okay, it says, the fifth question, at the end of the scenario, do you discard all ink ribbons? Yes. Based on the player count, you will add ink ribbons for the next scenario. So, for 2 players, you add 1. Or 1 or 2 players, you add 1. 3 or 4 players, you add 2 ink ribbons. Okay, next question. Do targeted enemies have an out-of-sequence reaction if an attack missed? Yes, enemies connected by doors or in your tile will react to any weapon. Missing an enemy in your square will result in being attacked and taking damage to the enemy with the highest threat level. So if this zombie were in my space and I attacked, I would take damage from the liquor. If you manage to hit an enemy in my space, none of them react, and of course all the other enemies will react, but the ones in your space will not attack you. Regardless if you hit this one or this one, they won't attack you. Okay, so another question people were wondering is the retro pack. It states there should be 15 starter cards and 29 red tension deck cards. Is this a typo? And yes, this is a typo. For starter cards, it is definitely a typo, and for tension deck cards, it wasn't necessarily a typo, but it wasn't needed after all. So the card didn't need to be thrown in there. Okay, another question: can enemies spawn in my square? Enemies only ever spawn on the same square as the character if the rule specifically states this, or there are no other spawn points on the tile or the square containing the other point that zombies are full. So this is full and I had to spawn enemies, I would spawn enemies onto that one. Question, when attacking zombies in your space, does it require an evade roll to attack? And no, attacking a zombie in the same space as you does not require an evade roll. You just attack. But if you fail, you take damage to the highest threat level enemy, so the liquor. If they're all zombies, you just take damage to any zombie. And then what happens if I can't spawn enough monsters? You immediately draw 2 cards from the attention deck instead. So if I can't spawn any more monsters due to you didn't buy enough monsters or the expansion packs and you didn't have enough models to spawn, just draw 2 additional cards. Okay, so now people are wondering, do enemies block line of sight? No, models, characters, or enemies do not block line of sight. Another question. Do you activate all enemies in the same space when they attack during a reaction phase? No. The evade is just more difficult. So these three zombies, these two enemies, I would need just to make this. I can't. These won't apply. I need to make this in order to evade. It says, question: can I discard as many cards as I like during my activation? Yes, this is correct. During your turn, you can discard as many items as you want, and this counts as one action. This is an action. Oh, it does not count as an action. Sorry, my bad. It does not count as an action, but you may discard as many items as you like. You just can't get them back once you discard them. Question: if items are stored in an item box in the current scenario, do they carry over into the next scenario? No. Items that are stored in an item box during the scenario are discarded immediately at the end of the scenario. Okay, so people are wondering, a zombie is here and I shoot 3 times and say I roll all pushes. Can I push the enemy through my space? Yes, you can. That's not an illegal move. You can push an enemy through your space if you're shooting and you can push them through. So 1, 2, I can push them right here. So if I wanted to continue running that direction. When can Ada's intrigue ability be used? Ada's ability can be used on any player's turn for any tension card drawn. Question: during the fourth survivor scenarios, since the player cannot go back to previous rooms, if a door is left open, will enemies follow standard reaction rules, or do they ignore them and remain in the tower/room? Answer is yes, they still follow standard rules. So you're playing Fourth Survivor and this room is open, and since you can't go back into this room after leaving it from the door, they still follow the same rules. They'll still run through them towards you. Question: in the top right of each scenario, there is an icon with 2 people and a number. This following a symbol. Does it mean anything? Those numbers are for solo play. If the number is 1, you can play with a single character. If it is a 2, you must play with 2 characters if you're playing solo, regardless. That's the minimum you have to play with. Question: regarding die rolls, do they stack? Yes, when you're rolling handgun ammo and you fire these 3 bullets, all 3 will stack. So I can push the enemy 3 times. Oh no, wait, whoops. This question was regarding 2. If I roll these 2, do they stack and make a double hit? No, unless the weapon specifies that, like a custom handgun. And similar for dodging, if I roll 2 of these symbols, do they stack and make a better half evade? No, they do not stack. So regardless, they can't stack. If you're shooting and you want to turn those to double, they don't stack. Okay, question. In scenario 2A, the rules state that at the beginning of the scenario, the player should draw 2 first aid spray and choose 2 different characters to each receive 1. I assume that in solo play, you only start with 1. In solo play, that is correct. In solo play, you only start with 1. Question: when resolving no escape, as the doors are between 2 squares and the enemies are still on the tile they were originally, the square right before the yes, so if there's 2 zombies here, the question states if I play resolving no escape, do they appear on this square before the door with the no escape? No, they appear after the door. So they don't appear before, they appear after. That's one of the questions someone was asking. Question: does the Colt SAA start with full ammo every scenario on the campaign like the handgun, or counts like a special weapon? Yes, during campaign mode, the Colt SAA is fully reloaded like a handgun, in the same way as the handgun. Okay, so it says, question: if Leon fires a weapon at Zombie 2, hearing the noise, the other enemies react. Zombie 1 is on Claire's square. Does he make an attack as a part of out-of-sequence reaction because he heard the noise? No. The answer is out of sequence reactions are only move actions, so non-active characters will not be attacked. However, if I was the active character, and like I said, you would be the only one that would get attacked. If it was a licker and he was in range, and I failed my attack, he would be the out of sequence reaction would be him being able to attack me due to his range, and he can hit me. Okay, it says question. Leon ends his turn. Zombie 2 moves towards him. As is usual, Zombie 1 is on Claire's square. Does he make an attack even though it wasn't her turn? It says yes. During this reaction phase, it will attack based on what character the active player chooses. So if me and Ada were here, and a zombie was going to attack one of us, the next one to activate would be the one that the zombie will attack, or the player who's active gets to choose what player he wants to be affected, to be attacked. Okay, it says during this reaction phase, it will attack based on what character the active player chooses. So yeah. If you were the active player is always priority. So these are the distinct differences between the reaction phase. Begin with any enemies on the same or linked tile, active character and who are in range to attack a character, and resolve that. After that, any enemies who cannot make an attack to a character perform a move action towards the closest character. The distinction between this is enemies do not make an attack after moving, and another distinction after this is enemies on the same or linked tile move towards the closest character regardless of whether they have line of sight or not. So yes, they get an out of sequence turn move reaction only if they were on the same or linked tiles. If the door between them is open, they hear the noise of the attack and move towards the closest character, unless specified. So here and here, and I'm here, and this was, say this is a player, this zombie would move closer to that player, regardless if it had line of sight or not. Okay, so question. When enemies are spawning and there is a player on one of the spawn points, when placing two enemies, do they split evenly into the squares? One of them spawning in the player's space? Both of them spawn in the other spawn marker. You don't use the spawn marker that the character is on. So if I'm here, unless specified that it says on the closest biohazard symbol, otherwise they would spawn here. They don't have to spawn exactly there. While setting up the tension deck for Scenario 7A, in some of the cards there's text that has a letter and a number. That just means I don't think I have any of the cards here that have that. Oh yeah, okay, I do. So it says 7A. It says S2. S2 means this would be for a separate deck, but since there's two separate decks for that scenario, this would be in a separate deck. So that's all that means. And that will apply to other scenarios. Okay, question. How long do the tokens effect of the tension deck cards last, such as Echoes in the Darkness? The effect such token will last until the end of the next player's tension phase and be removed from the tile. So, if I drew Echoes of the Darkness and placed on the next active character, and it was his turn, that next player's turn, and it was the end of their turn, it would be removed after that. So that Echoes of Darkness tile would be removed. Or if it was out, so it would be removed. Do you need to revive an unconscious character before ending a scenario, or is it a loss if you don't? This is assuming another character has a first aid spray in their inventory. All characters need to get to the objective area to complete the scenario. If a player goes unconscious and none of the of course, if you don't have a first aid spray, the scenario ends in failure. If a player is unconscious during the boss fight, however, this is the only time where players can be unconscious and you can kill the boss and still win the game. Question. During scenario 5A plus for the giant alligator expansion, does the character who is in the garbage dump draw from the boss behavior deck rather than the tension deck? Yes. Whenever a character is on the same tile as a boss, they will no longer draw from the tension deck unless stated so. So they'll be drawing from a behavior deck. So that doesn't have to be for the alligator. It could be for all bosses. Okay, so this is another thing. This isn't really a question, but in scenario 6A, the Amber encounter table has a typo, and this is confirmed by Sherwin. So it says right here, for the typo in the result. So let's go ahead and go to 6A. It says right here, where it says fearful scene. Place a rising fear token on this tile. The next time a character is placed on this tile from another tile, remove the token and roll on the encounter table. That is false. That is a typo. That should be the text to the rising fear card. Would be using this one instead. It says place a rising fear token on the same tile as the active character. The token remains in play for the remainder of the scenario. Any character on this tile at the start of the tension phase must draw an additional card. So instead of using the what was on the encounter table for 6A, that was a typo, and you must be using this card instead. Okay, so other people were wondering. The manual says that there should be 60 ribbon tokens and 1 side pack token. Instead, it should be only 5, since the side token has an additional ink ribbon on the other side. That is just an extra. That doesn't count at all. So there should only be 5 tokens technically. It should be only 5, and the side pack token. And I think that's it. I think I covered it. So if anyone has any more questions or would like another video, I'll be doing another one in the future, hopefully. But hopefully that should help anyone who has a problem with the game.
Mm.